Well, hello there, YouTubers. So today I want to talk about Git. So this is going to be a short Git crash course, and I will demonstrate how to use Git for everyday purposes. It can be very intimidating at first because there are many commands. Git is very rich, but in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use it for your everyday use. So let's get started. Whoa. So here are the commands. And I know this is intimidating. And I know it's quite a few of them. But when you realize what their purpose is, you will realize that it's really not a lot of commands. And you will not use these as much as some other ones within here. There's only about two or three commands that you will really need to use every day. So this is more of a cheat sheet for you so that when you need to do something, you can kind of come back to this, and I will demonstrate in this video how to use every one of these commands. For now, just if you pause this video and you want to copy them down, I will also post this code along with this presentation up to the repo so you can have a copy of your own. And so I'm not going to read every one of these commands to you because it's just going to be probably too much to consume about theory and abstraction rather than actually doing. So let's go ahead and get started with creating a repository on GitHub and demonstrate the most common commands from this list. So the first thing you want to do when you're creating a repository is come out to something like GitHub. GitHub is probably the most common one that developers use, but there's also others like Bitbucket, and I'm sure there may be others, but I'm not really aware of them since GitHub is the most common one. First thing you want to do is come out here to your repositories, and you can view your repositories. And as you can see, I have many repositories. So what I'm going to do for this demo is create a brand new repository. So I just click the new, and I will give it a name, and let's call it the Git demo. I will just call it the Git demo repository, and this is a Git demo repository. And I am going to make it public. I think you are limited on private repositories, but I think you are allowed some private repositories. Normally public repositories are open to anyone, so they're not locked down for anything. Anyone can view them and they can find them. But if you have it private, then only those people you choose to view it or collaborate can actually view them. But anyway, let's make it public. And one of the things I like to do is not create an empty repository. So I like to initialize it with a README just so that it'll have a README file. So I select that. And depending on the type of project that you're working in, you'll want to have a git ignore file. And the git ignore file is simply a file that will not commit files that shouldn't be committed in your repository. For example, if you're working with Node, you download a lot of packages and it creates a Node modules folder. And whenever you install, it installs all those packages. Well, you don't need to install them because you only need the source code. So you shouldn't have all that. There's other things like binaries and build folders and release folders and things that get created when you actually build. But you don't want that in your repository. You only want source code. So the git ignore file allows you to do that. And there's different git ignore files for different types of projects. And here it's showing us a whole bunch of different ones. We are going to select maybe if we have a node. Let me find that one. So let's have one for node. Now just add the node. And the license, it's up to you what you do with the license. Most of the time I just use MIT Open. That means they can do anything and whatever they want with it. So I just select that license. And I'll go ahead and create the repository. So you notice that I've set up my repository, and then this create workflows. Okay, this must be something new I'm not familiar with, but let's just ignore that for now, dismiss it. And so you notice that I created my repository, and I have a Git README file, and I can always navigate back. I only have one commit because that was for the initial file for the initial commit for the Git demo. So the next thing I want to do is I want to clone it. So this clone only gives me a link to my repository, so I can copy it. And I think this is the copy button. It copies it to my clipboard. So the next thing I want to do is I want to open up my command line. And you can do this in the terminal, and if you're using Mac or Linux, just open up your terminal. And let's go ahead and change the options on here to something larger that you can read easily. Let's see. Okay, that's a little bit better, but it made my window really big. So in this case, I'm going to navigate to where I like to store my repository. So I'm going to go to dev. And I'm going to, at this point in my dev, when I clone the repository, I can clone it. And so I can say git, use the command git clone, and that's going to make a copy of that repository locally. And you notice I had it already copied to the clipboard, so I just had to right click and it brings it down. Now what this does is going to create a folder called git demo locally. And that's where my repository will be. So it's created it. So I have to now navigate into it by changing directory into it. And the name of it is git demo. Okay. And so now when I do a dir or ls, since I have some plugins for ls for Windows to allow me to do bash commands. If you can't do ls, just do dir. And you can see that it shows you everything you have there. So anyway, so it shows me that I only have a README file. It's funny, it's interesting though that ls shows me the files one way and dir shows them to me the other way. But there's more options to ls if you know about bash shell and all that. So anyway, so I can see what I have here at this point. Now I can open Visual Studio Code because I imagine that you're working in something like Visual Studio Code. So I can start Visual Studio Code from here. And at this point, it's going to open up my Visual Studio Code in this directory. So at this point, I can take something, for example, like, let's say that I create a new file. I can create a new file and just call it a list of, let's call it the cheat sheet. Cheat sheet MD. It's not a README, but it's a cheat sheet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that list of cheat sheet items that I had from the presentation, and I'm going to copy them into that cheat sheet. So I can copy all those items into the cheat sheet, and I can now, you notice that I need to save, so I go ahead and save that. And now when I go back to the command line, not that command line, but this command line. So I want to clear this. Let me just clear it. So when I clear it, I can do a Git Status, and you notice that it tells me that my cheat sheet is on track. That's a change that I made. So, but it's on track, so I need to add it, right? So now, when I add my cheat sheet, I can say Git Add, and I can add the file just by name, cheat sheet, like this. But normally you make a lot more changes, so I just use the full directory, so I use the dot. That's what's in the command that I showed you earlier. So I do a Git Add. When I do my Git Status now to check the status of my repository, you notice that my new file has been added. It's actually committed. It's staged, is what we call stage, and it shows up in green. So now at this point I can commit the change, and I can say git commit minus m, well, dash m, and that means that I committed. Usually I like to use a dash am. That means any added or committed files, but you gotta be careful sometimes. You may not want to add the added files because you may have files lurking. But anyway, I like to use dash m, and don't forget your comment. And your comment will say something like, you know, what you did, basically added the cheat sheet file. At this point, I've added the cheat sheet file and it's committed. So then the other command that we talked about in the earlier slide is you can check the Git log, and you can see that here where it's showing me that commit the master, which is where I am when I checked out from the master, from the origin master, and I'm at the head. Well, I've added a change since then. So in order for me to get it up to GitHub, I have to do a Git push. Normally you can do a Git push just like this because it knows by default which one is your remote. So, but another thing you may find yourself doing is just say origin and then what branch. So you're in the master branch. So you do a Git push and GitHub wants your credentials. And normally you don't have to do this. It can save them locally, and that's because I haven't set up my username, my configuration. Maybe in another video I will show that, how to set up your configuration. And then I won't have to enter this every time. Okay, so now I've committed everything. So the first step, when I first initially committed, it was just locally. It doesn't show up in my remote directory. So now if I go to the website, I can see if I refresh this, right now you see one commit, but if I refresh this, you see 2 commits. And if I go to the commits, you can view everything that I've committed here in this commit, and you can see that I just added that file. Now if I go back to this, and let's say that I forgot a command here. Let's say that I wanted to, let's just say that I forgot a command, or I had a comment, or let me just add a comment because I don't want to mess with the commands. So I'm just going to add a comment. This is a list of most common Git commands. And you'll see something interesting. So when I save it and I go back to my command line, and not this command line, let me see, let me find the right command line. It's this one. So scroll to the bottom. So here, when I do a Git status, I can see that, you notice that it tells me that I've modified my file. And so since I've modified my file, I can go repeat the same command, Git Add. And like I said, I can add the file by name, or I can say just dot, and it'll add the file. Now when I check the Git status again, you notice that I just said modified. Well, there's another command that I didn't mention. Normally it's git diff. The problem right now is it doesn't show me any changes because I've already pushed them, I already staged them. Not pushed them, but I've already staged my files. So it's not going to show me any changes that I made. And normally it would have if I would have done it when it was just simply not staged. So if I make another change, let me just show you that. Let me go make another change. Dot, and I'll save it with a space. And if I do that, I go back to my Git status and it shows me now I have 2 changes, right? So if I do git diff, it will show me the changes that I made. So for example, the minus means in red means that I deleted that line, and the plus means that I added that line. So basically I modified that line. Okay. So if I do again, in order for me to take those changes, I have to say git add again. And remember when I said that git diff like this will not show me the changes? Well, that is true because they've been staged already. If you look at my Git status, I've staged it. But if I do git diff -- cached, it will show me my changes, and because they're cached, so it will show me my changes, and it'll say this is what I changed. The white means there's no changes there. It's just the pluses where I added maybe a new line. I added these things to it. So at this point now, I know that my current status is, oh, typed it in wrong. So my current status is that I'm ready to commit. So I go ahead and commit again. And I can simply do M. Like I said, I'm used to doing AM. There's nothing to actually add, so I can just say modified. So I say updated the cheat sheet. And so I commit that. Now if I look at my Git status, it doesn't show me a status. However, if I look at my Git log, it shows me that I do have a change that has not been pushed over. I'm actually one ahead than the master branch. So at this point I can push it, and like I said, origin and master. And how do I know this? Before I actually do a commit, I can actually do git branch, and it shows me my branches, and I only have one branch here. So it shows me that I only have one branch. So, and the star indicates that I am on that branch. So I can just say git push origin master. And once again, I have to enter my credentials. Hopefully you won't have to do this if you've set up. You can actually configure Git so that you have those saved. and it won't ask you for them again. So anyway, that's really it right there that you're going to be using on an everyday basis. If I go back and look at my repository on GitHub, you can see that I made the changes. A lot of those other commands are just extra. So we'll talk about those commands in just a second, because I wanted to separate this, and let's go take a look at the other commands that we said we would discuss. I think we covered most of these commands. We did not cover git init. Git init is one of those commands that it's really to create a repository. If you have Git installed, it's going to create a repository locally, and then you'd have to somehow create something on remotely and then tie it to that remote, because we didn't even cover the git remote command. But maybe you don't want to commit on the cloud, and you just want to track changes locally and make sure that you keep up with changes to certain files that you're making. Well, that would be ideal for that. But normally you don't use that because you're going to be cloning a repository. We did cover Git Add. We did cover Git Diff. Another thing about some of these commands is that if you do Git Diff, you can actually do it on individual files. Like if you said Git Diff and then add the file that you want to diff, it'll just diff that file. We did check Git Status, Git Log, Git Commit. We did that. Git Push. One of them that we didn't cover was Git Pull. And normally you won't really have a need to do Git Pull, but if you actually work, let's say for example that you have your repository and sometimes you work on one machine, or maybe you work on it on one computer and you have another computer and they fall out of sync. So Git will have a problem when you try to push things back up, because it'll say that they're out of sync. You have to pull down the latest in order for you to push your changes. So Git Pull is common for that. And you can also run into a situation where you may have conflicts, which you're going to have to fix. We can cover those at another time though. But it's really simple. It's just fix the conflicts and then you commit everything back up. We did cover Git branch. See the branches. We did cover Git checkout. We did not cover Git checkout. So Git is the one of the many powers of it is to branch and have different branches. In fact, your master is a branch, because if you think of that, like if you have a tree, the trunk is considered a branch. It's really not a branch, but it's the tree itself. But that's the main branch, right? So the master is usually the branch. So you may have other branches. That way programmers can work on different code branches, and that's where you will need a branch. And I can demonstrate that. But there's also another thing that I didn't talk about. This command gittk actually will pop up a GUI where you can see all the changes that were made. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Git checkout and git k, so we can examine those and wrap this short video up. So right now my repository is up to date. If I check the status, if there's nothing to commit, if I check my log, I can see that I am at the head with the master. So let's just say though that I have currently, if I check my branches, I only have a master branch. And most of the time in actual production teams and organizations, you're never going to work off the main master branch. Normally what people do is they work off some develop branch. So let's say that we had a develop branch. How would we create one? So we could create a develop branch, and we could say simply something like this. We say git checkout, and -b. -b means create a branch. And now I get to name it. So let's say, for example, that we have a standard and we tend to call ours based on features or something. So I'm going to feature, let's just say that, and I'm just making stuff up here. So more content, right? So I can name it more content, right? So that's going to be my branch. So now it creates my branch and it actually switches to that branch. If I do git branch again, you will notice that I have a branch called feature more content master. That means that everything that I do from now on is not going to master, but it's going to branch. And you notice that it's green and it has the star next to the branch. So at this point, if I go back to my Visual Studio Code and I go here, and let's say that I added some additional content here. Let's say, for example, that I added the 3 most common commands, right, from the list. And let's say that I added the steps to create a GitHub repo, right? So let's go ahead and create that in here, create another file. And let's say add GitHub repo, and these are my steps. Okay, so these are the steps, and let's say that I added that feature. I'm done with it. I come back to my command line. If I check my Git status, I see that I added that file, so I'm going to git commit, and notice that it's on track. If I was to do git commit -m added add steps, let's see what it does. Notice that it didn't do anything. Git status. Notice that it didn't add anything. And so do you know why that is? It's because I said -m. That's why I say you got to do add. So you got to do add. Normally that's why I just do am most of the time and I'm done with it, right? So then now when I do this, oh, wait a minute. Actually, it's because I haven't added my file. I gotta add no matter what. Okay, so let's try it again. Git status. I was wrong. So it's a new file. I added the file, but let's just see if and let's try that again. Let's see if I'm right or wrong. So let's do the git -m. So let's do git status. Ooh, and it actually added it. So I was wrong. Never mind on that. So anyway, I added the file, but let's say that I add another change. Let's say that I forgot another change, and I want to show this. I want to talk about this just a bit briefly, because let's say that I added a change, and there's really nothing significant here to change. File, save all. And I do git status, and this is one thing that I don't want you to get caught up in. So I do my normal git add, and then I do my git commit. And we tend to forget this sometimes. When we say git commit -am, and then boom, I forget. Ooh, it used to be that if you forgot, the command, it will take you in the VI editor. So I wanted to show you how to. Oh, that's because it was unable to start the VI editor. So I think that's part of the problem. But if you do find yourself in the VI editor, which is normally Vim editor, if you do that accidentally, you will find yourself here. And when you find yourself in the Vim editor, let's just say that I have a file, touch test.txt, and let's say that I find myself in the Vim editor, right? And I find myself here. Normally, that's where you're gonna land if you don't specify a comment in quotes, and it's really painful if you've never used the Vim editor. So one thing that you just have to remember is that you just enter do escape, the key escape, then type in colon. See it down on the bottom left hand corner, the colon, and then put the Q, and then just do a Q and I mean not Q but Q and comma, or you can do WQ. Q would just get you out of there. Q and exclamation like that would get you out. But if I say WQ and exclamation, it means write and quit. And actually, you could put your comments in here, but I wouldn't recommend doing that unless you've taken a little crash course on Vim or something to know how to use it. So at that point, I just get out of there and I escape. So at this point, I can actually check my status again. I like to check status. So I'm going to add the file. I'm going to commit my changes, added test file. And then I'm going to push my changes. But keep in mind that I'm in a branch. I'm in the feature branch. So I need to say git push origin, and then I have to tell it what branch. So I copy that and I just say Git Push. Let me type it in. It's not one to copy because it's Windows. I don't know why it's not copying. Only I copy and paste. So anyway, Git Push origin and then feature more content, and I push it just like that, and it pushes it. Wants my credentials. And it's being pushed up. So now when I go up to my repository, back up to GitHub, I will notice one thing, that here there is a pull request, because it's a branch, and if I can create a pull request here, well, since I'm the owner of this, I can say that I want to create a pull request, and I write what I want, any comments, anything. If they want to view the changes, they can view whatever change. And at this point, I can say, please approve this change. I made these changes. It's just another way to say I made additional changes. And then you create the pull request. And so now there's a pull request. If I will go back to this pull request, because it's open, whoever has the authority to merge it or review it or add comments to it or whatever can make comments. And so you can actually do certain things like squash and merge, or you can rebase and merge, or normally you can just merge pull request. And so now confirm it, and now it changes, and now we can see that the commits will show up here. Let's see. So that's the Git demo there, but let me see if it shows up now. If my changes show up, so they do show up because it's been merged. So anyway, that's really all I have. Oh yeah. No, that's not all I have. There's one more thing I want to show you, and the one more thing that I want to show you is this command, git k. And this normally comes as part of the installation when you install Git. And if you run this command, you get a GUI tool that allows you to view your changes, so you can actually work your way up. It shows you which files change, so you can select which files and what changed within them through each commit. So I can see that this new file was added. Here I can see what changed. I can see that this line was deleted and this line was added, and it modified my file with no new line in, and so on. So this is a good way to view the log if you want to view the changes. There's a lot more to Git. There's a lot more commands, a lot more features, a lot more capabilities. Keep in mind that there are GUIs, but before you really get into anything GUI, I suggest really understanding and wrapping your head around a lot of the concepts, because it can get really confusing. This crash course was really just intended for you to get your feet wet and begin committing and creating your portfolio on GitHub. So anyway, if you like this video, thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, please support in any way you can. Share this video. I appreciate it. It really helps my channel. I'm really trying to grow it, but it's a slow start getting there, but any support is really appreciated. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, just drop them down below in the comments. Thank you.